Greetings to all the learners and namaste. This session is on ICT in medicines, the first part of this presentation, which is in two sessions. The course is Certificate in Information Technologies, CIT 002, Block 2, Unit 4, and this is the 19th session. So let us try to first set the context. What do we mean by ICT? So to clarify, ICT here means Information and Communication Technology, which really consists of all the technology that deals with computers, networks, mobile phones. It includes all kinds of multimedia capabilities such as teleconferencing. It includes the facilities and the infrastructure provided by the internet. It includes all the computing power and the computing methods that are available, all software and its different branches or its different offshoots such as artificial intelligence or expert systems. All of these come under information and communications technology for the purposes of what we are going to discuss. Now, we all know that ICT has transformed many different ways in which we live. There is hardly any area of modern life that has not been touched by information technology and by communications facilities and the internet. But in particular, if we talk about healthcare and the medical field, the medical domain, we'll find that the effect of ICT has been nothing short of transformational and revolutionary. So let us see in this session some of the changes, the great big changes that ICT has brought about in healthcare. One of them is in the education field itself. Education of medical and healthcare professionals has been greatly changed with the advent of information technology. The way we can keep patient medical records away from those voluminous paper files that keep building up as a patient grows in age, all that can be a thing of the past now. Monitoring of patient condition can be done not just at site, but it can be done remotely. Medical advice in case of emergencies or even for routine situations can be dispensed by experts or specialists as required. Artificial intelligence is something, and machine learning in particular, are things that have been making a lot of changes in many different areas of our life. And medicine is one of the biggest possible beneficiaries of intelligence that comes from machines. The purchase of medicines, the provision of various drugs from pharmacies, the whole experience of buying medicines has changed. And one of the most exciting areas, of course, is robotic surgery, something that sounds almost out of the realm of science fiction, but it's a reality today. So let us look at each of these different transformational changes that have been happening in a bit more detail and try to understand how things were before ICT became so powerful and how it is now. So let's look at education, for example. Education is now no longer merely teacher driven. The older paradigm was that you went to a class, sat in a lecture theatre or in a classroom, a teacher came and he or she taught you according to some syllabus laid down by somebody. So what were the difficulties here? First and foremost, you were bound to a timetable laid down by the teacher and of course your fellow students. So you had to come to school or to your college at the given time, and you had to sit in the class while the teacher was teaching. Now some of us are slow learners. Some of us pick up things very quickly. But the teacher was the same and the way he was teaching was the same, the subject or the matter he was going to tell you about was the same. While quick learners would chafe and become impatient at what they felt was a slow pace, the slower learners would feel overwhelmed by the amount of information that was being dumped on them in a short 1 hour class. And there are days when you don't want to go to school. Too bad. There was no way out of that. You had to be in school when you were expected to. While ICT cannot completely change that and we cannot do away with teacher-driven and instructor-led training or teaching or education, but ICT, especially in a professional area like medical education, but there are a lot of supplemental and complementary lessons and subjects that one can learn using ICT. So when you learn online or when you learn through communication technology, the biggest advantages are that you can learn when you want. If you are a person who likes to sit and learn at night, you can do that. If you want to do it in the daytime, you can do that. Morning, evening, it's all your choice. And most importantly, you can learn at your own pace, at a speed with which you are comfortable. Distance no longer matters. It doesn't matter whether you are in the same state, the same city, the same locality, or you happen to be in another country altogether. So geographical constraints no longer matter. When you were at school or when you were in college, your ability to refer to reference books or to any other literature on your subject was limited to your local library. With ICT, with information technology, communications being what they are now, this limitation fades away. Online, one can refer to the best and most sophisticated and the latest literature on your subject and your field, say in medicine, from anywhere in the world. So you have networks of libraries and you have various online repositories where all kinds of specialized latest information becomes available. Books used to take time to publish, but that is no longer the case. As changes happen, as new research is published, people can refer to it virtually immediately. Then think about searching. If you wanted to search about a particular disease or about a particular condition or about some particular situation, how would you ever do that in a paper, in a normal library? You needed to have people who were very well trained and expert and knowledgeable about the subject who could give you possible pointers as to where you could find the information you wanted. But today, with search engines that are available on the internet and other various search capabilities, it's much easier to locate information based not just on keywords but also on any kind of track that you can have. So any pointer available can help you search for what you want. So what does this mean? We can now search for answers online, spend more time on learning and researching rather than on regular lectures and just reading textbooks. Mind you, it's not as if lectures and textbooks are no longer needed. They are very much needed. They are as needed as they were before. But you now have many other avenues available to you to learn. Then let's look at another very fascinating and very important area, that of medical records. In our country, especially in India, most people were not very conscious about regular health checkups or keeping track of their condition or keeping a record of their interaction with the doctor. And even when this was done in serious cases where people had some serious conditions, how was that possible? One had to maintain bulky paper files giving all records of the prescriptions, all the laboratory tests prescribed and their results, all kinds of procedures undergone and the outcome of those. All these were records that were entered and kept in paper form in files that became more and more voluminous as time passed and you had more and more consultations. Today, electronic patient records are a reality. Health records can be stored online in a repository and can be accessed from anywhere. You can search, a physician or a doctor can search for anything related to your condition that he wants to find. And you have records of and all the details of virtually everything that has been done with you. So the institution, the hospital, the date, the drugs prescribed, the tests undergone, all records, a comprehensive dossier is available about your whole history. Is this an unmixed blessing? No. There are certain risks, most important being those of privacy. Because the repository is available in electronic form, there are always possibilities that people can break into the systems that store that information and access health records of people, which is certainly a very big breach of privacy. But if these risks can be mitigated through encryption, authentication, audit trails, logging and the various other normal mechanisms for security and privacy in software, these risks can be mitigated to a large extent, and the benefits of course far outweigh some possible risks. If records are automated, then other things cannot be far behind. So let's look at how patient conditions or the situation of a patient was monitored. Earlier it had to be in a hospital, you had to be in a room where trained nurses and other paramedical staff would come, examine you, look at the equipment that was monitoring your various parameters, say your heart or your sugar level or your blood pressure or any other such bodily parameter. Today, a lot of this can be done remotely and in fact should be done remotely if feasible, if there is no urgent risk to the patient. So you can have pacemakers for heart conditions or electrocardiograms or ECGs, glucometers for diabetics, blood pressure monitoring machines and so on can be monitored by remote personnel while the patient is in the comfort of his of their home, of their house. Of course, this cannot be done in every case, but in many normal routine cases where it is not necessary to have the patient in hospital all the time, you can have this kind of a remote monitoring. You get alerts whenever there is anything that requires intervention by a doctor. Then you can reduce, therefore, hospital visits and thereby costs, and also the load on medical personnel who are always in short supply, as you know, and they are generally very overburdened. So anything that can reduce their the load on them so that they can concentrate on the more serious cases that do require their own direct monitoring all the time. So there are also a lot of software packages available now that can help the doctor with specific recommendations and with making decisions on the line of treatment or any kind of intervention to be done. Today, ICT makes available something very useful for a layman, which is online medical advice. Earlier, when we did not have any internet, when computers were in their infancy and there wasn't enough information available, communication technologies were not that developed. When an ordinary person like me had to go to a doctor, there was very little one knew about the condition. So if, for example, I had some kind of a heart condition, I would probably know nothing more about it than the fact that there was something wrong with my heart. I would go to the doctor and ask him maybe some questions. He would give me some answers, and I would remember some of it and perhaps not remember some of it. And also, I could not really put across my actual complaint, my actual difficulty, or what I wanted to ask him about that well. So the onus often was on the doctor to find out what was wrong with me. A lot of information now becoming available on the internet and in other online forums. There are many websites that tell you a lot about your medical condition. So if you have certain symptoms, you can find out the possible causes. You can have a better discussion with the doctor when you then go to the doctor and consult, because you will have some information about your possible conditions. You can be better prepared for the kind of observations that you need to make. So when the doctor asks you, does this happen in the morning, in the evening, you may not even have noticed, or you may not even have taken any note of that. But if you have been through that online website, then you would know that, okay, if I am having this kind of a pain in my abdomen, then maybe I should note down when it happens, how severe it is, when does it go off. So certain facts that I can present to the doctor for him or her to make a more informed diagnosis. So you can ask more pertinent questions, and you can, and if, see, on a website, if you put in any symptoms, those symptoms can occur due to a variety of possible reasons. Many of them are not very serious, but some may be very serious. And the same symptoms can mean something very different, and that can be very alarming to a layman who has seen this kind of advice on a website. So when you go to the doctor, you can ask them whether there is any possibility of you are having that kind of a serious disease. Like, for example, do I have brain cancer if I am having headaches frequently? Or if I have a thyroid problem, is it because of a brain tumor? These things, these questions will arise in your mind, and you can ask the doctor and either get reassurance, or God forbid if it really is something serious, you at least get to know in time. So use these resources with caution, because otherwise you can get alarmed unnecessarily. Most of the time symptoms are not the cause of, are not caused by any very serious conditions, and it's only in rare cases that they actually indicate bad things. And most important, one must never, never, ever start medication purely based on what you read on any kind of online website. That can be extremely dangerous. You must always consult a doctor before trying to take any kind of medicine, before even thinking of taking any kind of medicine. Now we have a large amount of information available. Even doctors today would be very hard pressed to keep up with all the developments that are happening. We all know that there are now so many specializations in medicine, and specializations and super specializations. But even as the field of study gets narrower, the sheer amount of knowledge and information and the research work that is being done in every area keeps on increasing. It's very hard for anyone, even for a doctor, to keep up with the latest developments in their particular field. So there can be specific situations that they come across where the patient has a condition that they are not aware of, fully familiar with. So there are some artificial intelligence based systems that can help a doctor in such a case. There are inference engines that can look at the particular history and the complaints and symptoms of a patient and give recommendations to a doctor, and the doctor can then make their final decision based on the additional information, because the expert system will have a vast amount of knowledge already stored, which would be much more than any human can assimilate. So you get the benefit of the doctor's experience as well as a large knowledge repository that exists. Another area where artificial intelligence is helping is in virtual nursing assistants to monitor patient conditions. So you can have actually software that can answer questions from patients on their condition and thereby reduce the burden on doctors by requiring fewer hospital visits. Artificial intelligence and software have also now become rather successful at diagnosis in certain cases. For example, artificial intelligence based systems can detect skin cancer, many skin cancers with an accuracy and precision that rivals human level performance. So the best human specialists are now being rivaled by these kind of systems. There are some bleeding edge and research stage algorithms and artificial intelligence based systems that can even perhaps outperform humans in certain areas, such as breast cancer detection. And of course, we are still not at a stage where you can leave the diagnosis entirely to a machine or to a software system, but the software can help and corroborate to a large degree a human doctor's diagnosis. Administrative work such as medical transcription, speech recognition software can greatly improve the productivity. Earlier, medical transcription was done entirely by humans who would listen to a recording of the doctor's dictation and transcribe that into text. Today, a lot of this can be done by software. And when a doctor is trying to look for treatment to be given to a patient, he again has a large amount of software or a large amount of text to search through. So natural language processing can help them find such relevant information far easily. And in image analysis for telemedicine, artificial intelligence can provide a preliminary filter at least, so that a specialist is consulted only when really needed. Then online pharmacies. We are all familiar with e-commerce. Many of you must have purchased items online, be it garments or phones or any such gadgets. But electronic commerce has also come to drugs. So you go to a doctor, you get their prescription, and you can simply order from home, and you can get your medicines delivered right at home as well. Of course, one has to take the normal precautions, make sure that that site is not a fraudulent one which will simply take your money and deliver you nothing, and make sure that it's a site that insists on a doctor's prescription, because in many cases it may be illegal to buy drugs without a doctor's prescription. A genuine site will normally ask you for the prescription, and you will be asked to upload a copy of the prescription with your order, but you still save a lot of effort in making a trip to the chemist shop, and you save money because many of these online pharmacies have lower overheads and offer you attractive discounts. Then surgery. This is something very exciting and seems almost something from science fiction. You have surgical procedures carried out using ICT. A small incision is made by the surgeon in the body, and a high definition camera and certain miniaturized instruments are inserted. The surgeon sits at a console nearby, and he guides the instruments using the images that the camera is showing him in real time. So robots are not going to do anything for you, so there should not be any apprehension in your mind that a robot is going to operate. Every decision is made by the surgeon. It's only that the robotically controlled instruments perform the commands of the surgeon. So the surgeon is able to reach hard to reach places, the risk of infection is reduced, the blood loss is reduced, there will be less pain, and one can hope for faster recovery, which will mean a much better and reliable or favorable outcome as compared to operations performed manually. This cannot be done for every kind of surgery, but there are many kinds of surgeries where this is now possible and is actually being practiced. So in this session, we have looked at some general purpose as an application which are being used in the medical context using ITC. So for example, medical education or patient record keeping, websites giving information, online pharmacies which are nothing but e-commerce, or medical transcription. These are all general purpose applications that are used in various other fields also, in various other areas also. We know that education is now done online. Various kinds of records are kept on the computer. Websites are there for each and every kind of information you might want. All kinds of items can be purchased online, and we have speech recognition used for many different applications. We also saw some applications where ICT is doing things that are specific to medicine, which is monitoring patients, and you can have virtual nursing assistants that are really programs to which patients can put questions. We now have diagnosis being done using artificial intelligence, and finally we just saw how surgery can be performed using miniaturized instruments and cameras controlled by a surgeon sitting at a console. This is robotic surgery. So, I hope you have got introduced to the exciting things that ICT can do and is doing for medical applications. Thank you.